Yeah, one of the things that has bummed me out the most, I would say, more than pretty much anything else in this last election cycle, was Arizona. Yes, I got bummed out by Pennsylvania. Yes, there's several elections that really made me upset, but the one that really just stabbed a dagger into my heart is everything that's been happening in Arizona, and it's continuing because we're seeing so many challenges. What appears to be very obvious and blatant, what appears to be just a system that was corrupt from the beginning, that was designed to fail on behalf of, is crystal clear to those of us who are paying attention, and yet we're still getting pushback. We're still having challenges getting judges to see it the right way, I guess. Today, I'm very blessed, pleased, and honored to have Kari Lake coming on with us again to discuss, give us an update, and see what's happening out there. So, Kari, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, JD. It's so good to be back on your show. I always love coming on with you. You're a great interviewer, and I'm doing well. I mean, you talked about a dagger through the heart. Yeah, I feel the same way, but I'm trying to keep my perspective positive because we have, and I don't say had, we have such a massive movement. The movement we created here in Arizona, and it wasn't me, it was we. I just used my God given abilities to help get the mama bears and papa bears and students and grandparents involved. And it is so massive that they had to. Everyone knows that Katie Hobbs didn't win, and that she's a fraud sitting in the governor's office, and that the cartels have basically taken over our state government. And so now we're in the unfortunate position of having to win again, and this time in a court of law. And we have presented our case. I'm sure you probably saw part of it in the Maricopa County courts. And I thought my attorneys did a great job, even though they were only given limited amount that they could pursue in 2 counts. They did an exceptional job. We put forth exceptional evidence, and unfortunately, the judge didn't rule in the way we wanted him to. So we're moving it into the appellate court, where it already is right now, and we will move it to the Arizona Supreme Court and beyond if we need to. I will not stop fighting this because I know what happened was wrong. And if I stop fighting it, then the people of Arizona really have lost their voice.
Yes, they have. And it's not just, let's face it, this is not just about Arizona. This really is about the integrity of elections across the nation.
That's right.
Yours is yours is a bellwether, and I'm not trying to put any undue pressure on you, but we've had so many losses in this regard that
Wow.
yours is the last beacon of hope. So
Well,
I know that there's information coming out tonight. There's more information coming out tomorrow. Is there anything positive? Reach out and find us, that glimmer of hope that maybe God is going to say, you know what, it's going to work out, and here's why it's going to work out. What are you seeing on your end?
well, sometimes something that appears very negative is actually a positive. Okay. And look at with President Trump's, if we would have just had an average candidate, we wouldn't have even seen that. Would we have? But we had such a superstar president running against such a deadbeat drip that it was so obvious to many of us. To some people, they still have their head in the sand. And so, even though it was painful, it woke us up to the fact that we don't really have elections. That's a very painful pill to swallow, but it's one that we have to swallow and we have to deal with. And now we're in the process of dealing with it and correcting it. Here in my situation here in Arizona, we led the greatest political movement the state of Arizona had ever seen. People across the country were following it. People across the globe were actually following our campaign. And this had to even be bigger. We have evidence that is has come to our to come to light that is very shocking. I can't get into the details right now because I'm not privy to release it. We're double, triple, quadruple checking it. And I think it's earth-shattering evidence in our case. And we're hoping to be able to somehow get that to the courts because it is really shocking the levels they went to. And I believe that when additional evidence comes out, people will wake up. Even people who have been reluctant to accept that there's any problem or that the problem is big enough to deal with. You know, the people running this election in Maricopa County, it's one of those mega counties where 62% of the state's population lives here. They were Republicans running our election here. And they were the kind of Republicans who don't like America first, we the people type Republicans. And they actually are the ones who... wouldn't say it's good news, but sometimes when you see how bad things are, it's enough to wake people up. And then that's when we get the good news. That's when we come together and say, we got to change. And I think that's where we are right now.
Well, it's at least it's someplace. You know, I've long said that we can't just rely on winning in the courts, that we also have to win in the court of public opinion. And if we can present the evidence in the proper way, that it is possible to perhaps, and again, Lord willing, to perhaps correct the issue through the people. I'm not talking about revolution. I'm not calling for anything like that. But what I'm saying is that if the information starts coming out and if people start feeling the pressure, and if maybe more whistleblowers come out, maybe people are saying, you know what, I don't like this. This stinks. I'm going to tell the truth. And they start coming to the press. At that point, then we start to get questions answered. And that's, to me, I think that is one additional pathway through which we can go. Now, you mentioned, of course, the rhinos that you're dealing with. People think that still here in America that it's Republican versus Democrat. It's not. It's basically it's America First patriots. It's people that love this nation versus the uniparty swamp. And the uniparty swamp, you know, whether it's a third or maybe even half of the uniparty swamp is actually Republicans. Okay, I mean, let's face it. You got Doug Ducey. Doug Ducey is a Republican who was giddy to hand Kari, not your Kari, to hand Kate Hobbs the whatever, the governorship. He really wanted that to happen, and that should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, you can see it written all over his face. He looked thrilled. He looked beyond thrilled. You're right. I mean, we're having a bit of a battle in the Republican Party, and it is the uniparty Republicans. Sometimes they're called rhinos, who they want status quo. They want this appearance that there are two parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, but there really aren't. And we know it. And that's why you see these rhinos and they will vote for someone like Joe Biden or Katie Hobbs. Now, you cannot tell me you are a Republican with the issues we're facing today that are truly major conservative issues regarding open borders, regarding brainwashing of our children in schools, regarding some of the transgender issues that are being forced on our children, regarding crime, law and order, things like that, tax issues as well. And these people would vote for Joe Biden. I'm sorry, it's time to hand in your conservative card right now if you're voting for Joe Biden or Katie Hobbs. So they're being revealed as to what they're all about. And again, unfortunately, because we are wide awake to all of this, it's a little bit more painful for us. We go, oh gosh, can we please get a victory here? But we are getting some victories, and we're getting victories as more and more people are becoming aware of the issues. It's going to take more of us to get involved to bring about the change we need. And the pressure is great on those of us who are working to improve and save our republic, because I know for me, a lot of people have reached out and said, you're the only reason I have hope right now. I've got hope for your case. You make me feel hopeful. And I don't want to take that hope away, but I also don't want to give people false hope. I truly do have hope that our case will move forward and be victorious, or I wouldn't be involved in it, because I know the truth. And I know we have an excellent case. We have great attorneys who are working on it, and the people are waking up to what's happening. So I am devoted to this case, and I'm not going to stop fighting until we have done everything we can to explain.
Well, we're going to keep fighting with you. How do we help? So my audience, many are in Arizona, but I mean, this is after election day. It's not like we can do any more campaigning. So what can we do to help? Is there a legal fund we can contribute to? Is there
Oh,
is there
wow.
anybody you need us to write letters to? I mean, how can we get involved? What can we do to
I
help?
love that. You know what? I think it's time that we start reaching out to the fake news, even if we're not watching it. God knows I'm not watching it, but reach out to them anyway. Email them. We don't have to be rude. Just say, why aren't you covering this case? Or tell them, my vote and I want this case covered. When are you going to start being fair? We need to start pressuring these so called journalists at our papers, even if we're not watching them and reading them. They need to feel some pressure that they need to start doing the right thing and send letters and emails and phone calls to your lawmakers, even the Republicans, even the Democrats, and say, we want honest elections. We know our elections are a sham and we want honest elections, or we will vote you out. They need to be held accountable. And I'm not suggesting any rudeness. I am not suggesting any threats. I'm suggesting that we overwhelm them with well-written emails or kind phone calls that are pursuing this truth to come out. So that's one thing you can do. If people do want to get involved, I'm paying a lot of legal fees right now, and it's unfortunate. I hate, like I said, that I have to fight this in the courts, but if I don't do it, who will? And I'm actually feeling very fortunate that our case has made it to the courts. So my case is strong and it's being heard on the evidence. So people could take a look and learn a little bit more about it at Save Arizona Fund, FUND.com. And if they want to make a donation, that would be appreciated. I also know that people, not everybody can do that. And so I appreciate prayers and pray for the judges, that we get a couple of judges that really see what's at stake here.
That's great. SaveArizonaFund.com. I definitely encourage people to go there and help out, because this, to me, this is their last stand. And as far as the judges hoping and praying that they see, I think they see what's happening. And I'm not going to point fingers. I don't want to hurt your case or insult anybody, but I think that in a lot of cases, not just yours, but cases that we've seen for the last 2.5 years, that they know they're just, for whatever reason, not participating in the proper judiciary manner, I guess is the best way to put it.
And once JD, the majority of people are awake to this insanity selections, and the judges live in our community with us. Maybe they had a rough time voting. Maybe they had their vote thrown into door 3. Maybe they watched as on election day. We know this is a fact. We just got this through FOIA. Beat us, because that's how big our movement of We the People is.
And speaking of being, here's my question for you, and you may not be able to answer this. Audience has to keep in mind you're still in the middle of litigation, so our goal here is to win the case, not to get bombshells or whatever for my show. But with that said, my question for you that you may or may not want to answer: is this an isolated thing? Like, is there just a handful of evil people doing evil things and trying, or do you think this is a widespread massive, widespread group, organization, or even series of organizations that are working to in the United States and specifically in Arizona. Is it big? Is it little? What's your call?
So are people conspiring? Is it a big conspiracy? And by that, I mean people conspiring to work together. I think it's so massive that it would be hard for it just to be a couple people. I think it is a lot more than just a few people. That's my gut. With the information we're going to be putting out, as we're triple checking it, is I think it's absolutely stunning, and I look forward to coming back on and getting that information out. I do believe it will be information that wakes people up. But I have to say this, a lot of the information that's come out has been stunning to me. I mean, look what they did in Wisconsin. And when we saw that 103% of the nursing home patients voted, 103%, wow, that's pretty amazing. And then we found out the condition that these poor men and women were in. Many of them had been 10 years. They didn't even know their own name or the name of their children anymore. They couldn't feed themselves. They obviously couldn't vote, and they voted. To me, that was pretty earth-shattering. And the mainstream media. And so now with Twitter opening up, we need to start resharing some of that stuff because it never got shared the first go around. But there's just so much coming out because what's happening is the policies they're pushing are nobody wants them. This isn't a 50-50 United States. 50% want this kind of crazy stuff and 50 don't. Very few people really want those policies, the globalist policies, the open border policies, the brainwashing of our children policies, the wokeism. Very few people want that. So they have to create this imaginary scenario that it's 50-50 when in fact it's not.
I've never actually heard that before. I mean, I've thought it, and it seems obvious, but I've never
think it's
heard
more
it worded
70.
like that before.
70-30.
Probably.
I mean, I believe we won. I mean, we won on election day, 75% of the vote. It's just a matter of waking a few more people up to what's really going on.
Hopefully we'll be able to do that. And hopefully you'll be able to come back on here very soon. I know we've got some great information. This is going to air technically on Wednesday. So you're going to get some information Tuesday night. Maybe we can get you back on later this week or next week to talk further about your case. Awesome.
Well, here's what's happening real quick.
Please.
Tonight,
Yeah, please.
The defense is going to be, we've got the case in the appellate court. They've got until tonight to basically present their rebuttal. And then we have about a week to respond to that. And then the 3-judge appellate bench will, I think I'm saying that right, will take a look at all of the evidence. And one of the criticisms we took was, why didn't you put voters on the stand in your case? Given 5 hours to prove our case. And so we were able to take all of those declarations and admit them as evidence into the court. So they are part of the case. I don't want people to worry that we didn't get real people who were affected. We did get their signed declarations, and the judges will be looking at that as well.
Very good. Yeah, we definitely need to get an update from that. So Kari Lake, and it's SaveArizonaFund.com. Is that correct?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, JD.
Save Arizona Fund. Kari Lake, we'll talk to you hopefully very soon. God bless you.
Thank you.